Muhammad Fanatil al-Hajaya, Arabic, born 3 August 1955, is a Bedouin poet from Jordan. He writes poetry on international relations and has published 5 books of poetry. Hajaya has been loosely attached to Jordan's Hashemite court and often reads his poetry on national and ceremonial occasions. Though he lived a desert life as a young man, he now lives in the village of Saad al-Sultani. Life. Hajaya was born in Jordan's Karat Governorate. He received a formal education until the age of 10, worked as a shepherd until the age of 15 and served in the Jordanian army. Throughout his career as a poet, Hajaya has been loosely attached to the Hashemite court, where his talents as a vernacular poet have been put to good use on ceremonial and other national occasions. Quote, in the early 1990s, Hajaya spent 6 months in Bahrain as a member of the Bahraini ruler's personal bodyguard, but left this post for personal reasons. Quote, poetry. Hajaya has published 4 volumes of poetry. Nafahat Wadi al-Adir I and II. Al-Azf, Ayla Autor al-Juru. 2000. Li, Unica Yaredun al-Arab. 2002. The majority of his poetry is given over to panegyrics of the Hashemites or the leaders of his own tribe. Quote, Hajaya's poetic language is more accessible than that of many contemporary Bedouin poets because of its subject matter and the more educated language that goes with it. Though quite a lot of the phraseology, stock metaphors, and compositional elements survive from the older model, Hajaya writes on poetic topics traditional in Arabic poetry, like love, ghazal, the elegy, retha, and praise, mad, as well as on topics of international significance, such as the Iran-Iraq War, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the U.S. invasion and occupation of Iraq, and the Syrian civil war. English translations. In Politics and Poetry in Contemporary Bedouin Society, Clive Halls and Said Salman Abu Athara translated 10 of Hajaya's poems into English. In Ya Condoleezza Rice, O Condoleezza Rice, quote, published in 2004, Hajaya writes from George W. Bush's perspective as Bush celebrates the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Also written from the perspective of George W. Bush. Hajaya's poem Fadas wa Fadis, Fartas and Fart Fussy, lists various disasters and public relations debacles that had come to haunt the Bush administration by mid to late 2004. Quote, writing from the perspective of an imprisoned Saddam Hussein, Hajaya published Al-Iqmadud an-Naga, Declaration of War, in 2006. Hajaya also wrote Itdar Lidh Dib, Ode to George, what The Guardian called a stirring verse tribute to George Galloway, the Respect Party MP and advocate of various Arab causes who has been highly critical of American and British actions in Iraq. Quote, in his poem, Son of the Bedou, Hajaya complains about how the Jordanian government discriminates against Bedouin youth. Quote, Hajaya's recent poems on Mu'adh al-Kasaspa and the state of the Arab world have been translated by William Tamplin.